first.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm thirsty already. How are we doing out there? I don't know about you, but I did not have a Red Bull or a donut, but I still feel a little fried. Awesome, so I'm gonna get us going. What's up, y'all? I'm Kristin. I'm here to host the panel today, coming at you from Seattle, Washington, USA. All right, let's talk about the real deal, our panelists. And I'm gonna need my notes for that. All right. Our first panelist grew up in Oregon and after spending time in various other cities, has been back in his home state for the past 15 years. With a long and influential career in skateboarding, notably having the boys at my local park in a chokehold over his Adidas sneaker, he was one of the first pros to show that you don't have to live in California to stay relevant in the skate industry. Crown Thrasher Skater of the Year in 2008. These days, he's creating a buzz as a part-time beekeeper. Voted most likely panelist to survive an apocalypse. Please help me welcome Silas Baxter-Neal. All right. Oh, there we go. That's what he looks like on a board. All right. I met our next panelist when he was a teenager. Not only was he better at skateboarding than everybody else, he also was a better volunteer as a member of Skate Like a Girl's Yes teen program. Born and raised in Seattle, he actually moved to Bangkok, Thailand to pursue his pro skating career, riding for Produce, Skateboards, and New Balance, to name a few. He's known for his smooth, effortless style and relaxed energy, and making difficult tricks look way too easy. And fun fact, he just got his driver's license and drove himself here. Let's give a warm welcome to the weekend's newest driver, Jasper Dohrs. Boom. All right, a true trailblazer in skateboarding. Our next panelist grew up in Kelowna, BC, representing Canada here at AB Weekend, and made her mark in the early 2000s, following the path of women's street pioneer, Alyssa Steamer. While her name hasn't been on a board for over 2 decades, her time in the industry as a professional influences her work to this day, both in her day job at Adidas and through creative projects like Mess Skate Mag. I used to cut her Billabong and Rookie ads out of my issues of Trans World, and she designed my one and only pro model. Help me welcome my friend, Jessie Van. All right. With West Coast roots, our final panelist actually made his mark tearing through gritty terrain on the other side of the country. Being the crust connoisseur that he is, he's now ripping full-time in Portland, clocked in for Polar and Converse. When he's not out making Northwest street skating look absurdly fun and effortless, he's probably cruising on a bike or demolishing a donut because balance. Portland, make some noise for your boy, Aaron Herrington. All right, let's get it popping on the questions here. So we're gonna kind of start from the beginning, and I'd like our panelists to describe their experiences coming up in the Northwest as a young skater. And Silas, you want to take us away on the first one?
Yeah, happy to be here, guys. Thanks. Hi, everybody. I grew up in. Hello? Oh, I'll just hold it closer. I grew up in Eugene, and I had a pretty solid skate crew of other kids my age. And when we first started skating, there wasn't much of a skate park, just a little crusty ashtray bowl thing. And throughout I think over like 5 years, they built a bunch of parks in Eugene. So we had a lot of parks. It's a city that has a lot of street skating, so we ended up skating a lot of street. And then we had a couple older kids, Tucker Glasow and Trevor Prescott, who were making videos locally, and just we thought that was a thing to do. So we started making films and just skating, and that really like help us all progress and kind of get better at skating. And we had a really cool skate shop that supported us and did events, and it was called Board Sports, and the guys there weren't necessarily like core skaters, but they really appreciated us and what we were doing and tried to facilitate as much as they could and like do video premieres and like all this really cool stuff. So I had a pretty fun upbringing with a really good crew of kids that kind of shaped what I do now.
So I started skating around the time a skate park was built right by my house. It's called Lower Woodland Skate Park or Green Lake Skate Park. And I would say having that as well as the indoor skate park inner space was a big part of my experience, because especially at inner space you saw many crews, and even they had a local crew constantly making videos. It was kind of the only indoor skate park that I know of that would change their setup like every 3 to 6 months, which was super unique. Another thing, I guess the weather was a big factor. Like I always had 2 trash bags in my backpack to protect my board from the rain, and a lot of parking garages and making the best of any dry plot of land possible. So, yeah.
I think for me, it was probably a bit of a different experience just based on the era, but pre-internet, pre-Instagram, pre-everything, it was just me and my friend Dan that were out skating. And before I had my driver's license, almost just had to wait for my mom to be running errands, because we lived like 30 minutes out of town, and we would just go in and skate this mini mall setup that was, for that time, such a good spot. We called it ZMB, which is hilarious because in Canada, Z is pronounced Zed, but it was behind the Zellers parking lot, and it was just a great spot. And like, I remember it was just myself and my friend Dan. We had no idea what everyone else was doing, and really didn't even interact that much with them. And one time, I remember showing up there and meeting this kid, and I had heard there was like a really good kid from like nearby town, and just kept asking him, "Hey, are you Jeff?" And he said, "No, my name's Matt. I'm from Oregon." And it was Matt Beach, which is super funny because it took me about like a month after that before I even realized who it was, and I saw him in Thrasher. So it was like this very super localized, but also like, you know, super not localized at the same time, just because the media was so much like this uniform global mess. Yeah, that's all.
All right. My name's Aaron. I grew up in Corvallis, which is about 90 minutes south of here. For me, growing up, skating was lovely because we had a nice skate park. We had an awesome skate scene and a cool skate shop that helped support the local scene. I was a contest skater growing up, which I'm sure a lot of you Portland locals are familiar with. Cal's Pharmacy and the Department of Skateboarding and the Northwest Amateur Skateboard League. So through that, I was able to meet Silas. I met Josh Matthews, a bunch of other people, Tyler, Bledsoe, a bunch of people that are now professionals. So that kind of allowed me to meet certain people and see the potential that skating could offer, as well as rain being a huge factor. But when Department of Skateboarding opened up in like 2002, 2003, I know that was a huge saving grace for a big part of the Oregon and whatever, the Northwest skate community. And yeah, I mean, I just kind of always saw, you know, Silas a lot of contests and knew that he was already like doing things with Powell and Board Sports and Josh Matthews, and then like things started happening with them as they moved away to San Francisco and pursuing other things. So I kind of, what am I trying to say? Had certain people to look up to at a young age. So I had rad influences, I guess. So me growing up skating was super, super awesome. So yeah.
Awesome. That kind of leads into my next question, just kind of about early influences. A lot of y'all kind of touched on that, but if you'd be willing to expand, like what like local brands or spots, older skaters, like what really like shaped and influenced like what you skated, how you skated, and like kind of how you saw skating.
My crew of friends was my biggest inspiration at the time. We were all just kind of like really learning together and kind of pushing each other, and just making videos kind of elevated that, just because we had these goals and we were always kind of seeing what they were doing and trying to be on par with that. And so I think early on it was a lot of my friends. I also watched a lot of skate videos, like tons and tons, all the foreign ones, but I think like Welcome to Hell was always on repeat. I really liked that whole entire team and just like the way it was all put together. And we didn't have a whole lot of like ledges or smooth flat ground, and although I really liked mouse and stuff like that, I couldn't really relate to that kind of skating as much. And so like just the jumping downstairs and handrails and like kind of more like raw side of skating is what kind of I gravitated towards early on, because that's just what we had in front of us. And yeah, the local shop really helped as far as just like helping us, just like giving us a platform to showcase our videos on, and just like a place to hang out and meet, and watching the videos there and all that kind of stuff was like that's kind of what I was influenced by early on.
Yeah, I would say most of my influences were more so like local influences, like local heroes more than pros. You know, growing up in Seattle, we had Manic. I would say like Josh Jones, Jordan Sanchez, Josh Anderson. They were all really big influences on me, and especially just all pushing. I mean, it's true with all of skating, but they really pushed their own genres, each person in that team. And I would also say crews like Vic's Market, kind of showing creativity on things that would never really be seen as skate spots, kind of parking lots you would drive past, or, you know, Jordan Sanchez making a video part only on dumpsters was super inspiring to me. That I don't think anything like that's been topped by skaters outside of the Northwest yet. So, yeah, those are some big influences for sure.
For me, I think the Plan B videos back in the day, like virtual reality, had a lot of stuff in Vancouver at that time. There was a lot of building going on there around that time, and those spots, I think, meant a lot to us to see, like Colin McKay just skating in a parking garage. It was like we could relate to that a lot. That was pretty much what our scene was, skating parking garages half the year, as probably most of the people on this panel experienced. I think we had a lot of local pros who were like pretty good and pretty on the level. It was like Sam and Mike McKinley. Those guys were in Trans Worlds like way back in the 80s. There was this guy Jeff Ferner who was really good, like manuals. Like there were all kinds of styles in everyone. And then I think for myself, I skated a lot. We had a good crew. It was like Ryan Smith and Paul McNow and all these guys who were really pushing it. We're all living there. And I don't think we ever really thought of it as like going for it with a career, but I think over the course of time that just naturally happened. Like there wasn't even the thought of staying in that town and going pro. It was like we all moved to California and it all happened for us all later. But that was definitely a really big part. And I think the other one was that there were really amazing demos that came through. So it was like everyone felt pretty connected in a different way. And I think a lot of brands are starting to do that again. And Thrasher doing that as well with Thrasher weekends and stuff. But I think like that real life experience for me was really motivating. We had like, in particular, Deluxe came through and they did like 3 different demos in all the little towns around the lake. And that was like, I went to all, my friends and I, we went to all of them. And it's just still memorable to this day.
I think I read in an interview that you were ripping and some guy in the industry like gave you his business card.
Oh yeah, was Mickey Reyes here? That was him. I called that landline on a Saturday because that's how much I knew what was up.
Aaron, any influences down there?
Yeah. So my earlier influences were kind of just the people that were local to the area. I respected a lot of people that rode for Exit Real World out of Salem. Cal's Pharmacy riders were always kind of like the top tier dudes, in my opinion. And then I forget the website, Silas, but remind me, Northwest Border? Skate Northwest. There was a Eugene-based like skate blog essentially, or forum before that really ever existed. So I got to watch like tons of video footage of like Silas and those dudes growing up, not to kiss your ass too much, but you know, it was kind of being from Corvallis and Eugene being south of us, it was like we kind of almost idolized Eugene more than we did Portland because Portland was further away. But once Department opened, that's when I started realizing that Cal's Pharmacy had this insane team of skaters. My parents split up, my mom moved to Salem, and then I didn't know SIBO at the time, I didn't know Tyler Bledsoe, but I would sit there in shock and awe and intimidation, and I would just watch them skate at night. So I'd just sit on the ledge at the skate park and just like watch because I was like way too insecure and intimidated. But other influences like Josh Falk, Brent Atchley, Jamie Fortune was always like someone I thought was really sick. And then obviously skate videos. I mean, I grew up watching 411 number 17, which is like a very specific video, but it's all East Coast skateboarding. It's Eastern Exposure and Leftovers, Welcome to Hell and Jump Off a Building Leftovers. So really epic videos, but then I also grew up watching Jump Off a Building, Fulfill the Dream, of course, Modus, The Reason, but then I saw M. Bloom and Tony Trujillo kind of ruined my direction of skating that I wanted to take, but those are my influences at the time. So, and also this gentleman And John Rattray, I really liked his zero part in Dying to Live, to call him out right there. And then I met him at Newburgh one time, and that was sick. But yeah, so my influences were just people I kind of got to meet and that were around through skating contests. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, so moving forward in your careers after like the early days, obviously all of y'all made it to getting your name on a board, and what kind of was that initial spark, or what like inspired you to like really go for it? Like what like kind of motivated you? And if you want to share a little bit more about how turning pro happened for you and any of those moments kind of leading up to it.
I think that what kind of really kept me going was I just was extremely obsessed with it. Like I couldn't think about doing anything else. That's all I wanted to do. You know, like all my free time I was just skating, and I don't think it was, you know, it wasn't until I was an adult that I really thought of it as like a path, a career path or whatever. And I think even getting sponsored and all that stuff was just a means to get free stuff. And I always had worked until I turned pro, so I always had other jobs, and I just thought that was kind of the way that it would be. I moved to San Francisco because I was wanting something different and wanted to be closer to skating. I liked San Francisco, and I just wanted to be down there. At the time, I was riding for Powell, and they were like calling me a flow-am, so I wasn't really even an am yet. And then I told them I was working down there, and I like had a job, and I asked them if they could like help out with my rent a little bit, and then they didn't want to do that. And I met, while I was down there, I met this guy, Brendan Conroy, who was the filmer and team manager for Habitat at the time. And very awkwardly, he watched my like sponsor me tape with me sitting right there, and he's a pretty strong-worded individual, and was pretty harsh at the time, and it was just really intense. And then I kind of thought he wasn't all that stoked, and so they were giving me boards, but I didn't think it was going to amount to anything, and I was running out of money, and so I moved to Colorado just because I had never really been there, and I had friends who had friends there, and I thought it was just a cool, different place to be. And when I moved there, Habitat got worried that I would disappear, and so they actually started paying me a little bit of money and started traveling with me and like taking me on doing the things, and then filmed Inhabitants video part, and then I turned pro through that video part.
I guess people that inspired me were just like the group of friends that I made around being like 15, 14. I kind of ended up making friends with who I saw were the best Seattle Groms. This was Griffin Gass and Trevor Clark. They kind of came up as well through Interspace, and I grew up watching them since they were like 10, 11 years old, Griffin even younger. But yes, becoming friends with them, and then we would go skate with our friend Will Douglas every Thursday after school. And Will's big inspiration was Ty Evans, so even if it was raining, if something was completely soaked, we would pour gasoline on the spot and light it on fire to dry it up. Or we had generators with lights, and from being only 15 and being able to ride around with a crew like that, I think really made me feel part of the pro skate culture in a way I hadn't experienced, and it kind of really kept me going. And also like people like Marshall helping me get shoes and boards really early on when, anything small like that was a really big push for me.
For me, I don't know if there was really any one moment. It just kind of happened like naturally over time. Was moved down to California just because I really wanted to skate all the spots I saw in the video. I think that's probably a pretty similar story for everyone of that era. Like it was just like Silas said, it's like I was just obsessed with it, and that's all I wanted to do. And I think in a lot of ways, like shooting photos and filming that came out of like just traveling with your friends, and the main drive was just honestly to go skate and see those spots. If there was a moment, it was I moved to San Francisco and I lived there for a year, and that I got sponsored then, not really thinking, not really trying to make that a path, but it happened. And then I moved back to Victoria in BC to go to the University of Victoria. And I remember doing my homework there, and it was just like this abysmal winter of rain, which we're all probably familiar with here. And I remember being in there and just like there was a cover of slap, and it was like it was all my friends were into mags, and every month, for like months on end, going in there to do my homework at this coffee shop with seeing like picking up Slap Mag, and like Cairo was in there, and all my friends that I'd been skating with the year before, and I just really felt like I had the ball and I had dropped it, and I just decided to move back to California and try to go for it.
What inspired me to really go for it? I had skate coach parents, which was part of it, which was positive and a negative. They kind of influenced me to do things I didn't want to do, which was more contests than I was comfortable with, which showed me certain things and taught me things. But then when I stopped doing contests, that's when I realized that I had more freedom in that. But because of them, I started skating for Xavier Footwear when I was like 13 or 12. And then after that, I went to skate for Duff's and then some random board brands. And then Jason Maxwell at DNA Distribution for some reason was like, I'll send you Plan B boards. And then I started skating Plan B boards. And then I was kind of messing up at home. And my mom's like, you're going to SF for a bit. So here's a one-way ticket. Don't come back for 2 years. And from that, I mean, again, I was seeing people that had grown up in Oregon that were now living in San Francisco at the time, Silas, Josh Matthews, other people that were turning pro for Think or Habitat, Brian De La Torre turning pro for Think, just certain people that I was around, and then also just growing up in the Northwest watching the Cal's Pharmacy riders get flow for certain shoe brands or board brands, I was like, oh, this is very feasible or like possible, but I don't want to say I went into skateboarding with like the dream of being a professional, but I think it was always in the back of my mind that that's the end goal was or what I wanted. But yeah, I mean, I would say just having a very supportive family and then just seeing people that I looked up to achieve the goal that I wanted to do as well, kind of empowered that it was possible. Especially people from the Northwest, it really showed that I was like, oh, you can come out of a place that doesn't get a whole lot of shine, or like a lot of people don't blow up from out of here, but there is a handful of people. And you see those individuals and you're like, all right, this is extremely possible compared to like Los Angeles or San Diego. So,
yeah, I feel like it's pretty awesome how much it's changing and decentralizing from like LA skating. And I think for the people like me that are watching the skate footage, it's awesome to not see the same bland stuff. So I think that's a really cool development in skating. But Jasper, more specifically, could you tell us like a little bit about like how you got the opportunity to like move to Thailand and what was behind that decision, and yeah, kind of how things happened with Produce specifically?
So I was always like a year young for my grade. So when I graduated high school, I decided to take a gap year, and I had planned to just stay with my mom's family in Bangkok, planning to work, like do a little bit of commercial acting, do whatever I could basically to make money before going to college the following year in New York. But that year I just ended up meeting a lot of people in the skate industry. Just being like an English speaker in Thailand, I could end up on some of these sessions of skate teams coming to town, and I ended up meeting a lot of people. So the following year when I was in college, I was approached by someone named Anthony Clairval. He was going to begin the New Balance skate program in Asia, and he asked, oh, if I move back to Thailand, I could potentially get a contract and skate for the year was just the plan. I was just going to defer for a year, and it's been 8 years since then.
Did you ever make it to the Parsons campus, or just get there and turn around?
I did a year there, yeah. But and then I guess turning pro-wise, I made 2 video parts for this company, Produce, that's based in Thailand, and yeah, I got aboard after the second one. It took maybe 3 years or so, yeah.
Awesome. And Jessie, I feel like it'd be interesting to hear a little bit more about Rookie, and like if you can describe for the people what Rookie was. And I feel like in a lot of ways, like it was ahead of its time. Like being a young girl and like opening Transworld and seeing Rookie ads. At 1 month it would be a girl skater, next month it would be a guy. And I just thought that was really rad. So maybe talk about how you met those folks and how they ended up with your name on a board.
Yeah, I think I met them at the ASR trade shows, actually, which is not the most wholesome story. But there again, I got handed a business card. And this actually is funny because it comes back to Anthony Claraval. But we were doing a road trip across the country. And I think Anthony was supposed to be going, and then he didn't. And there was room in the car for me. And I flew to Seattle, and I met Frank Gerwer and this guy John Klein, and we drove across the country. And I love Frank. He's amazing, but I couldn't stand him by the time we got to New York because we didn't stay anywhere. We just slept in the car the whole way. It was kind of terrible. And when I got there, I asked them to drop me off at JFK. And my mom was a flight attendant, so that was also a big part of it. I was able to get these sort of free standby flights. And so I was about to just fly back, and I just had like all this change in my pocket that I needed to get rid of essentially before going through security. And I just went to the payphone and like slammed all these quarters in and called this number. And they actually picked up that time. It was a weekday, so I was lucky. And it was actually funny because it was the extra large store, and it was Catherine who was running Rookie. She was working there, and she said, "Why don't you come into town?" And so, yeah, this is like a beautiful story I hadn't thought to say at all, but it is like I got into town and I went to the extra large store, dropped my bags, and I got walked across the street, and I got introduced to Geo and Harold Hunter at Supreme, and I went out on a skate session with Harold Hunter around Soho, and so that was like, basically, from that point on, I was like, this is sick, I want to be in New York.
Moya?
I know Geo Moya. No, it was the other Geo. What was it? Estevez, the guy working the shop.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Aaron or Silas, anything to add about your pro journeys you haven't mentioned yet?
So yeah, I mean, I lived in San Francisco for 2 years when I was 19 to like 21. And then I went to New York for just to like visit for a month and kind of like test the waters with that. Loved it, went back the following year, broke my foot the first evening that I was skated, partied the entire month I was there, realized that I kind of like wasted that entire month. And all of my friends that I'd met in New York were like, "You're an idiot if you go back to SF. SF is dead, and New York's going to be the spot." And that kind of became a reality. I started filming with this videographer named Jeremy Elkin, based out of Canada, Montreal dude. So we did some video parts together. He introduced me to the amazing filmer and videographer Josh Stewart. And through that, I started filming for Static 4 and 5, which was probably one of the better highlights of my career. And through that, he showed my footage to Polar, aka Pontus. And from that, I met them in New York, skated for a couple days, and then here we are like 10, 11 years later now. So it was pretty easy in that regard, but at one point when I was skating for Blood Wizard, I was trying to make certain moves with other sponsors, and Josh Stewart was very mentorship and was like, these things aren't going to happen unless you quit these other things and do kind of free agent and like start all over. So I just dropped all my sponsors at one point, started all over, and then that's like opened the door. Because I was overzealous, and I would definitely express my concerns of like, I'm ready to do this, like I'm ready to be pro, and people were like, shut up, you know? So one thing, don't express your, if you're overzealous, don't express that, because that is very distasteful, which I learned very quickly at a young age. But yeah, no, it was, meeting Josh was like what made it all happen, so I owe basically most of my career to Josh Stewart, I would say.
I guess I feel like that the time from like moving to San Francisco to like turning pro like happened really quickly for me. Like just it was, there was so much going on, like traveling for the first time like consistently and filming and like shot interviews for magazines and just like meeting all these people and being really involved more and more with like the skate industry. Just feels like it just happened super fast, and I kind of didn't really know what it really meant or what it was going to happen of it. I didn't think that it would be like a career, especially not one that lasted as long as it has, but I think that my anticipation was to go in there and maybe be pro for like 4 or 5 years and then go to school or get a job or whatever, and it was such like a learning process through all of those first couple of years, and yeah, it was just, yeah, I feel like it just like was a whirlwind.
Totally. Awesome. We're going to go into our next question, which is, could you guys just describe what being a professional skateboarder actually is? Like, what do you spend your time on? What are your main duties? Like, if you were to write like a job description or, I don't know, some hashtags, I guess, of what you're actually up to, I think the people want to know.
It would be a huge list. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's different for every single person, and it's changed throughout the years as well. I mean, I think that when I turned pro, there was kind of more of a clear-cut method to it. Like, you got sponsored, you had to shoot an interview or be in the magazines. You had to film a video part, and then if you did a good on those things and people were still talking about you, you had to have other sponsors besides a board sponsor, usually a shoe sponsor and whatever else. And then most likely you would turn pro, you know, and I kind of learned that as I was doing it and then saw it around me, and it was kind of a clear-cut formula. So that was like the duties of turning pro, and then once you were a pro, it was about, and I think this is still kind of true for me at least, that you're always kind of filming for something, even if there's not a specific project, you're filming and accumulating footage and holding on to it till the next project. You're trying to go out and shoot photos, you're trying to be in the limelight, you're trying to still be seen and visible. It's about making yourself available to go on trips, I think also a really big part of it is being able to be adaptable to different situations and people, because you are on the road a lot and you're in the van with a bunch of people that you may or may not necessarily vibe with all the time, and you're sharing rooms with people, and so you can be a really amazing skateboarder and just like not really know how to get outside your comfort zone, and it could never happen for you, you know, just because of those little factors, you know, or not be outgoing enough to talk to people or just feel. I've seen a lot of people who are really talented and they really did really well in their hometown and really enjoyed their home crew, and then try and move to California or go on some skate trips, and they're not able to really feel comfortable skating around other people than their own crew, or not really able to like be away from their hometown long enough, and so it just kind of never really pans out. So there's a lot of flexibility to it. It's about being a skateboarder in the Northwest is about fixing spots and looking for spots and hunting and like trying to go back to all the same stuff you skated before and do it again. And yeah, I think that's a lot of it. I mean, there's so much more to it. It's about being a friendly person, being, you know, like, I don't know, not trying to be a role model, but just being that kind of person that other people kind of like want to be around or want to see and want to be interested in. Because at the end of the day, really you are kind of like selling yourself in a way, because you want, in order for brands to want to pay you, they need to think that you're marketable or relevant or whatever. And so you kind of have to just, yeah. And I think being authentic is the best way to do that. I think that shows through more than anything else. And like trying to create a character doesn't necessarily come off very well.
I just wanted to add to what Silas is saying. I think minus the IRS and the American healthcare system, being a pro skateboarder is one of the better jobs, in my opinion, other than not making 6-7 figures. But like, you know, we get to make, and minus injuries as well, we have a very open schedule. We get to do a lot of what we want to do on our own time. And I would say like my duties outside of like a professional skateboarder or as a professional skateboarder is just kind of promoting the brands that support me and promoting myself and trying to be like as encouraging or as inspiring as others. And whether that's filming for Instagram or constantly filming for projects or shooting photos for potential ads or just having photos on deck just to have in case something is needed, it's just all part of the job. And I have some people and friends and teammates that are like, oh, this is so weird, or like, I hate filming for Instagram. And I'm like, I get it, but at the same time, it's like you could be sitting at a desk 9 to 5 doing spreadsheets and like actually hating your job instead of like setting up a tripod and doing slappies at a curb. So it's like kind of, you know, it's give or take. But I mean, then you tear your ACL and then like you're out for 2 years. And then IRS and things like that. So it's like my description of being a pro skateboarder is like taxation and injuries and just trying to like have fun and promote yourself and just inspire others and encourage like a positive attitude. So
Nice. Yeah, my homie once said being a good skateboarder is being really good at getting hurt. I was like, damn, that's a good perspective. What about you, Jasper or Jessie? What's your day job like?
Very good at taking care of yourself too, taking care of your body. I would say Silas put a lot of those things well. I think all of them are true in terms of like being productive, trying to be seen, I think just being a good example is also important. Being like really present in the skate scenes that you're part of. And also, I'd like to think it's good to inspire kids outside of skateboarding too, whether it's any of your other creative endeavors, kind of like wear them on your sleeve to show kids how skateboarding can be the beginning of many other creative things. So I think that's important too.
Yeah, I honestly don't have a whole lot to add to that. Like everything Silas said, really, I think is where it's at. It's like it's that consistently over time, and that's the really hard thing because this whole industry is changing, and it still needs to keep evolving, obviously. So it's like adapting to that. You know, in my era, I was calling photographers on a landline, but now you need to be out at the park, putting the hashtags on the right stuff, and also just like being someone that people want to be around, like Silas said, and being adaptable and being someone that people want to be like, honestly, if you're trying to sell stuff.
And sometimes it is work, and you have to realize you need footage by this day, and sometimes it's really painful, but you have to fight through that sometimes. Most people want it to be fun all the time. It's not it's not always. So you have to have a little bit of a work ethic. Sometimes it's important.
Yeah, it's a work ethic's important, and it's kind of like compare and despair. You could be like, oh, you know, or like people get tired working at office jobs and this, that, and the other. But it's like there's days where I'm like, I only skated for 2 hours, but like my hamstrings, my knees, everything, it's so sore or whatever. And it's like at times like the outsider looking into skating doesn't know like how strenuous it is on the body or like how intense it is. Just like, you know, to take slams and this, that, and the other. Like the average human doesn't just fall walking all the time and doesn't just slam, you know. So it's being good at taking falls and things like that. And then just, yeah, I lost my train of thought there. I'm sorry, but I just heavily agree with what Silas says for sure.
Yeah, what I'm gathering is it's physically impossible to skate 40 hours a week. So gotta be hunting the spots, rolling on the foam roller, keeping it going. Awesome. Let's pivot back to the Northwest and our skate scenes here. We have a nice representation of Cascadia, I would say. Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia. But yeah, what makes the Northwest skate scene unique in your opinion, and have you noticed its influence reaching beyond this region?
I think that just having rugged spots and lack of spots in general. I mean, I think that Oregon, at least, I think Seattle has this a little more. Like there isn't much. None of the towns around here have much like suburban sprawl, and so like you really do have like a limited landscape of just like your city. Like if I drive an hour outside of Eugene, I'm in the country. You know what I mean? Even here in Portland, like if you drive east or west from here, you're in the mountains or you're on. You know what I mean? So like there's a limited space to actually find spots, and then so. Growing up with limited spots, you kind of really have to look at things differently and have kind of a different approach. And I think that that's something that I noticed in a lot of skaters. With Aaron, like even though Aaron, most of his career was in New York, you see his footage, you watch him skate, you can tell that he's a Northwest skateboarder, like from spot selection.
Thank you.
I think that's another thing is like of course, Oregon, I think, is really aesthetically pleasing because of all the texture of the ground, because of the green, the backgrounds, the different landscape and looks of the city itself, a lot of brick, you know what I mean? Those are all things that are really visually attractive. And so when we're looking for skate spots, we're also thinking about that, I think, as well. And so I think that's something else that is kind of unique to Northwest skateboarders and maybe other places too. New York, I think, also like is more aesthetically pleasing and people probably search that stuff out as well. But I think those are things that really kind of make Northwest skateboarders stand out as like their spot searching, like the spots they choose, I think, in the way that they approach them, I think is a little bit different because of where we grew up and those factors, yeah.
I would agree too. Like seeing the footage and stuff like that out in the Northwest, I think is some of the most aesthetically pleasing. Seeing just like weathered ground, wet ground, dirty ground, moss, trees, this, that, and the other. It's like, don't get me wrong, I love seeing New York footage. I love seeing people skate the ledges in Chicago, the long marble ledges, but it's like, after a while it gets a little bleak because it's just kind of the same urban environment you see, or like Jaquan in Los Angeles. You know, I could care less to see lines there anymore. I know what the place looks like, no disrespect, but it's like, then you see someone skating something somewhere in Portland or Oregon, and it's like there's trees in the background, or like this, that, and the other. Someone found it, made it, or it's just always been there, and you had to cut a tree out of the way or a bush or something. But I've always just thought the Northwest just looked way cooler in the sense of like weathered skating and knowing that the spots are way more rugged in person than they are in the footage. And then also, I would say the outside reach that I've seen like globally is the skate park production. Like the type of skate parks that we have in the Northwest, I feel like kind of set the pace for the rest of the world. Because Streamland and Grindline, don't exclusively just do American or Northwest skate parks. They now have a huge presence in like Sweden and Denmark and stuff like that. So that's where I'd kind of see the Northwest influence going. And then also, anytime I mention Portland to people like that are European or outside of the States, they're like, oh yeah, that place looks sick. Like I would love to go there. Like it looks crusty. Like the spots look sick. So like people know about Portland. It's just not like the LA yet, but I think it'll kind of grow over time.
I think growing up, like the drive here felt unique because, like, say you grow up in Southern California, it's sunny every day. You're not so motivated to go every day, but springtime or wintertime, Seattle, on that one sunny day, maybe only for 6 hours, you're gonna see almost everyone you know, and that was really cool. I'm not sure if it's still like that, but I think that makes it unique too. As far as seeing its influence, like oddly in Thailand, there's a big following of Scram skateboards, which I think is pretty awesome. Like a lot of kids like skating wild shapes and doing layback 5-0s. I don't know how it ended up there, but it's beautiful. I think it's awesome. I've seen Dope Planet stickers in Bangkok. It definitely somehow has its reach.
I was going to say kind of organic crews. Like I think of all the stuff that Ian and that crew is doing with Genesis. That stuff is really standing out. I think it's also like the DIYs. There's a very like self-starter mentality to it. Even all the spots usually need to be fixed. It's like it's just more thoughtful and more self-motivated maybe than just showing up at Jaquan and getting a line or something. So that's from my thought.
I was going to add one other thing. What I think specifically makes the Northwest skate scene unique, and I'll say like Portland specific, I can't speak for Seattle. I've spent 0 time there whatsoever. Communal. It's extremely communal. I mean, this event in particular is a good example. I mean, I didn't think there would be this big of a turnout. I didn't really know what to expect. Just about anything that's skate related in Portland, I feel like has a really good turnout because it's so community based and communal based. I mean, it's whether it's skate park building, DIY spots, revamping Esplanade, or like doing something, like people show up to do it. Or even if it's a video premiere that's going to be like on a wall somewhere or something, or at a bar, like people show up for it. Skate trivia. I mean, like more and more people, or it's just a very welcoming community, I would feel like. Whether it's like you're a transition skateboarder or a street skater, does not matter. Like we all commingle, it seems like. So I would just like to see more of this stuff happening, and I would just say the community is like really strong as far as working together and whatnot.
All right. Well, we just got to our last question, and then we'll have like a few minutes, I think, for a couple questions from the audience. But I guess if you guys could keep it a little brief, just so we have most time for a good amount of time for questions. But what do you hope to see in the future of Northwest skateboarding? Are there like up and comers you want to give a shout out to that you're like hyped on? Anything to share about the future?
Ramel Torres, pretty hyped on him. David Labaziak, Alex Labaziak, pretty stoked on those dudes. More skate parks, I'm sure, will happen, inevitably. Courts 2.0 will be dope. And then hopefully some landscape architectural, multi-purpose spaces that we'll get to utilize more frequently and actually get skated, as we see so many, abandoned football fields and things like that. So just hopefully more skatable stuff.
Yeah, I think it's really cool how there's always a new generation, and sometimes it's maybe not always. I feel like that it goes in these waves, and right now we have a pretty awesome up and coming group of kids right now. I'm not seeing a lot of really young kids right now, and maybe that's because of I don't go to enough skate parks or they're not in my vision, but I feel like there was a lull as far as like lifer skaters, and I feel like that, yeah, Ramel and Alex and Nacho and like all these guys from Portland are really kind of, and Emil are just really showing up and really pushing it, and it's awesome to see. I also think that Seattle's scene from an outside looks like it's the strongest it's ever been. And from my perspective, I think that I've always kept my eyes on Seattle, and it's also been through these waves of like where it's really strong and there's not much going on, and I think right now it seems like it's like super strong, and that's really awesome to see. Yeah, and also what Aaron said, I mean, if you were here for Taj's speech yesterday, I think the idea of like integrating skating into urban development is what I would like to see skating worldwide. I think that allowing skateboarding to be in the community is where we should be heading, and not trying to stick us in outside in a designated space, you know, that's only for skateboarders. I think that there are people like Taj and other people around that are really trying to help change the landscape a little bit, and that's cool to see.
Yeah, I think skateboarding lifers is a good point where, you know, every part of my life comes from skateboarding, and I see a little bit of the younger generation kind of, it's just become an element of their life, but it's not something that carries them through their life. I would like to see that more. There's definitely kids in the scene that are lifers, but yeah, I just want to see it accepted again as an identity, and that many other things can come from that identity too. It's not just skateboarding.
I was going to say more of this, like everyone just coming together. Like, thanks, Alex, for putting this together. It's an amazing idea. And here we are. We need to keep evolving.
All right. I think we got time for a couple questions. True or false? All right. Awesome.
Anyone have questions?
It's people I know.
We get the audience loaded.
Yeah, no punishers. This better be ending with a question mark at the end, Cooper.
It's written out. It's short and sweet.
I love it.
Perfect. So as professional skaters, how do you balance the desire to skate the spots that you prefer or spots that you've found with the spots that the photographers or the filmmakers want you to skate, which are often the ones that you can get broke off at?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I like that.
I think that you kind of sometimes are forced to skate stuff that you don't want to skate, and I think that's kind of what helps you continue and move in different directions, you know what I mean? I think that if you're only going after stuff that is in your comfort zone and what you want to do and what you make or whatever, then you're gonna really be stuck in one little place. And I think that by especially going on trips with other people, like you end up in spots that you don't necessarily like or want to skate, but everyone else is skating it. And so instead of just sitting there and watching, you're gonna skate it too. And you might surprise yourself and do something you didn't expect, or you might get broke or whatever. But I think that it's definitely part of it. I think that it sucks. It sucks when you, like, your filmer takes you to some giant rail and you're like, oh my God, do you even know me? Or, you know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, a lot of good also comes from that. Filming for Inhabitants, the filmer was this guy, Brendan Conroy, and at that time, he was not a very happy person, and he took a lot out on all of us and just, like, was harsh and rude, and, like, but it fed me so much. Like, there was so, like, he'd tell me I didn't have it. He'd be like, yo, you can't do this. You ain't got this. And it would be like, I'll fucking show you, no, and just, like, it really kind of pushed me to do it. And now I really appreciate that about him. Like, it was, like, this really harsh, tough love, and he's an awesome human, and he's a lot better place mentally than he was then, so it's no shame on him. But at that time, I had this, like, really love-hate relationship with him that fueled me in a way that made me really step it up, I think, and I appreciate that now and hated it at the time.
Like, going out of your comfort zone is pretty crucial, I would say, in this profession. You have to constantly be progressing. Of course, it's more rewarding if it's your spot and not something shown to you. But sometimes you just got to handle business. And not always, but.
I've experienced that it kind of depends on the trip you're on and, like, the photographer or filmer that you're with. I would say most filmers, typically you have a rapport with, and they kind of know, like, the way that you skate and this, that, and the other. no disrespect to photographers at all, but some that I've dealt with, it's kind of the same statement. Like, do you know me? Like, we've skated together hundreds of times, and you're telling me to dry this thing? It's like, are you crazy? And they're like, oh, you got it. And it's like, no, I don't. But yeah, I mean, it can put you out of your comfort zone sometimes, but that can also cause you to slam. Or like a filmer or photographer is like, oh, you should try this. And it's just like, have you ridden a skateboard before? Like, do you know that that is completely infeasible? So there can be a little disconnect at times, but I would say most of the time the filmer and the photographer are more into what you're wanting to bring to the table. You know, they're not going to be like, oh, this, or if they think it sucks, they will tell you it sucks. Like if the spot's whack, you know. But it's kind of the skaters mostly in charge, I would say, unfortunately.
Yeah, like I kind of have a question around like board graphics and things like that. Like I don't know how much say you guys have in like graphics or things with your names on it, or if you guys are people that like skate like your own boards or don't skate things with like your names on it and things like that. Just wondering about that, or how you deal with having your name on things and like kind of like aesthetics associated with your name.
I don't typically ride boards with my name on it, but that's more because of the shape that it's in, and I'd rather have my name on a board that is a better selling shape than necessarily what I ride. But as far as graphic influence and stuff like that, I ride for a brand where I love the artists there and the creative director, and same thing with all the video stuff at Habitat. That's what he's good at. I let him kind of do all of it. He's always given us the opportunity to have say on graphics and to do stuff, and I've done a couple board graphics myself, and so it's kind of cool to have that opportunity. But honestly, like he is so good at it, and he has the aesthetic, and it's better to let him do what he's best at than me to pretend like I'm good at it.
I pretty much conceptualize most of my board graphics, unless it's a board series. Like my sister's a good painter. She's done art for my boards in the past. Yeah, just kind of connecting an idea with a friend who you think the art style would fit, I find is a really rewarding experience. And then to see it out in the streets. So yes, I would say I really enjoy that part of it, like creating your own product.
At Polar, it's kind of like we're shown an array of graphics, and it's kind of like, which one do you want to choose, or like which ones do you like the most out of like these 5 or 6, and then from there get to kind of have our input on that. But if we shoot photos, or like there's photos that like our parents have taken that are like sick old photos, those can turn into graphics pretty easily. But I mean, having like a full say, I mean, like we have like a small say, but never like no or yes definitively. But like, you know, we can be like these 3 out of the 5 are like my top 5 or my top 3 favorites. And it's like, all right, we'll work with that. And then same thing, sometimes boards are printed on the shape that I ride, so I have to ride my boards. And then sometimes I have the pleasure of getting to ride all my teammates' graphics, which I prefer. But yeah, if it's in my shape, I guess it just comes in the box. So
this is like for everyone in Kristin, but I kind of said it, health insurance. Like pretty much pro skaters, right? We're all 1099 for companies. You don't get health insurance. It's insane. I've never researched myself, but I don't know about any other professional sports if they get health insurance. But like, what's up? I mean, Silas, you've been in the game for a minute. Like, have you ever discussed it? Are things changed? Do you think things will change for like maybe, you know, Rommel or someone like the next generation? Like, have you guys ever talked about it? Is anyone, or is it like blacklisted if you try to bring it up? Like, I don't know. You guys, I mean, you get what I'm saying, but your thoughts.
I think that for me, early on when there was more money in skating, I had hurt myself, and I had talked to Habitat about it, and they said that there was no, because of 1099, and there's no way that they can make me an employee and pay for my insurance, that they just gave me a raise for the amount of money that my insurance would cost, and so that helped me do it. Since then, my raise is long gone. But I think I think that a big factor of why you can't do it is because you're not an employee, and it's like hard to do insurance for employees. But I think that also, the way I see it, it's factored into my pay. You know what I mean? Like it's part of what I get paid is the money that I would spend on insurance. And I don't know if there's a better way to do it. I think insurance is crazy. It's so expensive as it is that I think that it's difficult to like spend that much money on every single month, but it's necessary, I guess.
I had ACL reconstruction 2 years ago, so that was like 90 grand that I had to deal with. At the time, I was insured through New York State insurance. The only way that was feasible at the time, though, was I went through an insurance broker. So I paid $150 one time, and I never got charged for insurance ever again. So that was like, because I went through a broker who was a friend, but I didn't have like monthly payments or anything, so I lucked out with that. But I had to find a surgeon that would like contract themselves out to a different hospital to do the surgery, so my insurance would take it. They dropped the claim the day before my surgery on my birthday, so I was like panicking. But in the end, I mean, I've asked companies, I've asked Converse, like, what's the deal with these bills? I broke my ankle before. Before that, I've had other injuries happen, and it's kind of just like, we would love to help you, but it's not going to happen. And it's because of what Silas says. As a 1099, you cannot, they're not liable for you whatsoever. And then at the same time, I've had things where it's like, all right, well, this is going to happen, or this is how much your bill is. This video part came out, so we'll give you an extra like $1,000 for incentive to like help with the costs. But when it's like, hey, I have like a $70,000 bill that I'm trying to take care of, they're like, kick rocks, unfortunately. But I do not think insurance will ever actually be factored into skateboarding unless you're making that company 6-7 figures every month, like a Nyjah type individual, or like you're an Olympian. I could see that, but I don't see us independent contractors making 5 figures or whatever ever getting health insurance through skateboarding. I just don't think it's a thing.
Controversial thing to say, but it's only a problem in this country.
Yep.
It's not the responsibility
True.
of the industry, it's the responsibility of the government.
Absolutely.
That's an advantage I have living in Thailand. Hospital visits are maybe like $30 to $60, so it's much more approachable. So yeah, I guess that's one advantage of living in another country.
To tack onto that, do you guys, does anyone know, like, say, NBA, soccer, like any other professional sport with Converse, Adidas, New Balance, like whatever, do they have health insurance, or are they still paying for their health insurance? Like, I'm thinking of like another profession, like is skateboarders, we just don't have no money in the industry, so we just get the short end of the stick, or do other professionals in sports actually get taken care of better than skateboarders?
I think it's just Red Bull for skateboarders. I think Red Bull does give health insurance, I believe. But
Yeah, those are always done through unions. That's the other thing skateboarding could have. I know
Let's get it.
many years ago there was a thing, Rune Glifberg tried to get the industry together because it was based on like when X Games and things like that were going on TV, because the amount, when ESPN airs like a basketball game or something, a huge proportion of that money goes back to the players, and that's why they make so much more money. And I don't know what the rate is right now, but it was like at that time, I remember it was something like 3% of the overall television profits were going versus like, it would have been like 200% that or something if you were like in another sport. So I think it is also on us to organize outside of it. Again, it's not, we're very much like in this American mentality of just keep asking companies for stuff, and it's kind of got to go the other way around, I think.
Yeah.
I will add to that, like what Silas said, it's like we're 1099s, so we get our full salary up front, we do our own taxes, yada, yada, yada. So in technicality, I think sponsors look at it as like you get your full upfront pay, whatever that is, and then that denominate, whatever your insurance cost should be taken out of your salary as the 1099 that's not getting taxes taken out, because obviously we'd make less money. So I think it's kind of like that double-edged sword. They're like, oh, you make $3,000 a month from all your sponsors. Well, 500 of that easily can go towards health insurance, and the remaining 2,500 can go towards life. So I think that's how the skate industry views it. But I'm not really sure. But I think it's kind of like that. They kind of expect you just out of like the full 1099 salary payment that you're responsible for your own life at that point. And I've had injuries where I've asked people if I should do a GoFundMe, and they're like, you're out of your mind. Like, don't do that. So it's kind of just, you have to take the L, unfortunately, at times.
Sounds like things need to change. Unionize.
I'll lead it. All right, I don't know if we need to be done or if I don't know what time it is. One more question, Alex says. All right. Perfect.
I just wanted to ask, like, how prevalent it is in a relationship between the pro and like long-term sponsors. Like, and this isn't, I hope you guys are pro forever. You guys are great, but let's say, like, yeah, I've been pro for 20 years and I have a strong relationship with the brands that back me. Like, is there any kind of talk where there's like, well, this is the next step, let's bring you in to do like design consulting or something like that, something where, okay, you're going from having your name on a board or a shoe to let's bring you in and like, you know, something like a situation where I was really, you know, happy to see like Scott Johnston decide, like make a decision like, yeah, okay, I'm retiring, I'm stepping away from being a pro skater and now I'm going to do shoe design. Is that something that is common? Are those conversations had usually?
I think it's happening more. I think that I know at Adidas, there are folks who are on the team who are now in other positions at the brand, which I think is awesome. And I'm not really sure if that's something that the brand approached them about or if that's something that they approached the brand about. But I think that it would probably be something you would probably speak to them about, just because I don't think many of them are gonna really necessarily tell you like you're done, so how about you come over here and work or something. But maybe that is what's happening. I'm thankful I don't know yet.
Yeah. And again, this is not a question of like, you know, hey, so what are you going to do?
Yeah, I find
Love
the
you
same
guys.
at New Balance. They try to keep you around. So I've seen the team go through phases and yeah, people similar to what Silas was saying, still on the team, playing different roles, whether it's marketing or team managing. They try to keep you on board, hopefully for much longer.
Sometimes there might be a 20-year gap, as in my experience. It's not always, I mean, it's, yeah, it's just like, it's luck of the draw, you know, timing. Like sometimes the industry contracts and expands and it rolls with the economy. And when, you know, when you're ready to shift gears might not be when the economy is ready to take you in. So yeah, kind of, it's not a simple question, but yeah, always keep your doors open.
I've noticed like at some of my sponsors or whatever, some people quit wanting to be a professional and they want to work for the shoe brand or the industry. And that door opens very easily for them. Jerome Campbell being one of them, working for Converse. But as far as like other riders that I know that have like gone into working in brands that I skate for, I mean, Nick Basario is my team manager at Polar. So, I mean, he's also professional and the team manager. But, you know, I think if those things don't happen, I think it's like, I say this often, I've been fortunate enough to, for like 20 years, work with my feet. So if skating ended tomorrow and I had to go to trade school and start working with my hands, that wouldn't be too bad. You know, I wouldn't mind having my upper body being sore versus my lower body. But I'm happy to wait until that day comes, you know, and try to ride this out. But I would love to internally work for skateboarding at some point, but I know that might not be feasible. So, and that this doesn't last forever. So trade school, something that AI can't do.
Good point. Cool. Well, I just wanted to close us out real quick. And first and foremost, thank the most professional guy I know here, Alex Boone. Let's make some noise for Alex. And all the AB squad, y'all are amazing. And one more time for Silas, Jasper, Jessie, and Aaron. Thank you.